CurtBath.com and save $1,000 off your complete bathroom remodel.
If you are dealing with high blood pressure as you watch us this morning, you definitely are not alone. But if you're wondering what to do about it, are there perhaps some other ways to approach it, you might be in luck, because Ed Jones is back on the show with us this morning. He, of course, has Nutrition World here in town. Next to him, Dr. Curt Deering. So nice to have you both.
Thank you, Julie.
So am I right? Are there many ways to approach a concern about high blood pressure?
You know, there are many ways to approach the concern of all areas of health, and Western medicine's not very good at this. I mean, one of the reasons that so many people are on these drugs, and sometimes the drugs certainly are life-saving. We cannot have super high blood pressure, but they all have side effects. And what's interesting is I did another podcast on this. Here's some of the reasons why some people are on medicine that should not be on. If the cuff is too small, it can be 10 to 40 points too high. Cuff over clothing is 10 to 40 points too high. If your feet are unsupported, like on a stool, 5 to 15 points. How about legs crossed? 5 to 8 points. Not resting for 5 minutes, 10 to 15. And if you have a full bladder, it is 10 to 15. And here's one I did not know. If you're talking while it's being tested, it's 10 to 15 extra points.
Oh.
Just imagine the amount of people who are taking medication that doesn't need it. So that's pretty darn scary. So we got to be sure that we're empowering ourselves. One of the ways to empower at Nutrition World that we're doing is we have an app that we talk about all of these different areas. And my focus, as I've been doing this, which is now 46 years, watching tens of thousands of people, including me, go through this process of aging, is why do people have high blood pressure? There's so many reasons, but again, the downfall is Western medicine does not ask the questions to look deeper. They want to treat the symptoms, which sometimes is fine, but that's not fixing anything. It's not, because we know that hunter-gatherers around the world do not have blood pressure problems. Why is that? The blood pressure, the biggest reason for it is called metabolic dysfunction. What is that? That's the body's ability to take food and liquids and convert it to energy, called ATP. When you're 20 and 30, you got a very efficient system, but due to processed foods, seed oils, too many carbs, and not enough protein, that is causing this dysfunction, which then causes blood pressure. Now, other things can too, but generally those are the big reasons. That's why I keep preaching more protein, more protein, more protein helps, is one of the helpers. And then for people, and we're not going to discuss these remedies, but there's a lot of natural remedies in the green pharmacy that help balance blood pressure, help keep it, you know, in a better state of health.
Can I bring Dr. Deering into
Yes.
it for a minute? Okay, so a lot of people now have Apple Watches and things that are kind of monitoring all the time. Is that beneficial? Because in the doctor's office, when you often get your blood pressure taken, you're kind of stressed out.
That's right. And blood pressure is near and dear to my heart. When I first got out of pharmacy school, I started first clinic was a hypertension clinic. And we used to send people home on 24-hour blood pressure monitors. Something you put them on, they wear it for complete 24 hours, come back, and then you run the analysis off. And it was amazing the amount of white coat hypertension that we diagnosed. Totally different, the blood pressure when they were in the office, even that kind of out and about around, but as soon as they got home, blood pressures were a lot more normal. So it's part of the problem with blood pressure are several things. One is a lot of people, it's known as a silent killer for a reason, because a lot of people are running around, they don't even know they have high blood pressure. So getting checked is great, and now that we got more tools, that's really, really nice to have. However, there is a fine line there between, stress and anxiety plays a role in blood pressure, and when you're constantly checking your numbers, that's not necessarily a good thing
point.
either. So information's good, but overuse is one
much.
thing. But the other bad thing is that we tend to overtreat. As we get older, the blood pressures when they're coming in, there's all kinds of reasons. Adherence problems, they may not have been asked whether they took their medication that day, but there might be the white coat hypertension, but there's all kinds of reasons why they end up putting them on polypharmacy, more and more medications, which definitely is a problem. There's a thing called the J curve, which basically says as we lower blood pressure, yes, as we lower blood pressure this way, we're decreasing risk this way, but as soon as you start going below a certain amount of millimeters of mercury, you start getting down into the 60s and lower, the risks go back up because you're not getting enough blood flow going to the areas that it needs to go to.
Is there a rubric for like the ideal blood pressure?
It's different depending on where you go. You talk to different experts will say one thing. My personal opinion, when I got out of school, it was anything less than 140/90 was considered to where you
Good.
want it to be. Once you got above 140/90, you were stage 1 hypertension. Well, that's changed now. They moved everything down about 10 points. So the goals now are to get you lower, and I don't think that's necessarily always a good thing.
So that kind of goes back to Ed's point that maybe if you test in at 140/90, you're fine, but by today's standards, they might put you on a medication. You're smiling at me.
They would at 140/90, and like Dr. Deering saying, they used to not do that. They would have at 150/95, and there's a point where it's going to damage kidneys, it's going to do other things, but then the drugs themselves have the side effects. And like Dr. Deering says, I mean, you get too much on one single day, you can fall and have a concussion, and bad things can happen.
None of this is easy to absorb quickly, and I don't think either one of you would advocate anybody watching right now and saying, oh, based on what y'all have said, I'm making a hardtail right.
Nope,
Correct?
absolutely not.
But come and at least talk and get some information
Yeah.
to then present back.
Well, look, be informed to a point where you can ask your healthcare professional the questions that you need to be done. And like Dr. Deering sent people home with these monitors, get monitors that are accurate, quality, and remember all those things I said about sitting and not talking, no legs crossed, bladder full, all those will elevate. Let's get the real numbers.
I only have 30 seconds. A young people issue too, not just old?
Yeah, as our country gets more and more unhealthy, this is all happening sooner in life. So but the problem is not blood pressure. The problem is the cause. What caused the blood pressure to be high? That's what you got to go. You got to go to the root cause and find what is it. Is it the metabolic syndrome that's going
Right.
on? Because the more weight you lose, the more blood pressure is going to go down.
I've got a heart out. If you go to nutritionw.com, you can learn more. They're on Lee Highway. Go pay them a visit. Thank y'all.
Everything is so expensive these days.
Not everything. Budget Brakes will fix your brakes for the best price in town and give you a lifetime guarantee.
Budget Brakes. Brakes starting at